Hello, this is part 6 of Solomon's Song of Songs as we look at chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. It is July 28th, and let's go ahead and look at those verses. I'm reading from the same translation I've been using. This is the Shulamite woman speaking in chapter 3, verse 1. Upon my bed in the night hours, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I did not find him. I shall arise now, and I shall go about in the city, in the streets and in the plazas. I shall seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I did not find him. The watchmen who go about in the city found me. Have you seen him whom my soul loves? Hardly had I passed along from them until I found him whom my soul loves. I took hold of him, and I would not let him go until I brought him into the house of my mother, and into the bedchamber of her who conceived me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not awake or arouse the love until it pleases. So we return now to the state before the fiancé and before marriage. It starts out, upon my bed in the night hours. That's that time of day when you're lying there and you want to sleep. You've had a tiring, hard day of work or other activities. You're lying in bed and your mind won't stop. And you just keep sitting there thinking about that thing which would make things better. I know for the young ladies in my house, particularly for Rebecca, this is a fairly common theme. Why don't I have a boyfriend? Thinking about those things which would make life better. Molly, who now has a fiancé, not the same issue. But it happens in our life when we lie awake and we're wondering about the future, and we're worrying. We really don't need to worry because God is in control. That's one of the themes biblically. Don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has plenty, today has plenty to worry about. And you don't have to worry about today because Christ is in control. But it happens. You think about that future. You think about the person whom you will love. The person who will love you. Certainly, the reality is the person who most loves us is Jesus. He is our future and our reality. He is the ultimate, right? But until his revelation comes to us, we wonder. And you look at the world and you look at the people in the world who don't know Christ and how they wander about seeking different things, trying to find purpose in their life, trying to find why they live. What's the use of being here? Often you see them doing different things, some of which are not good for them, some of which are destructive to society, because they're wandering around looking for what they need, looking for their love. So she lies away in the night hours, and then she seeks him whom my soul loves. So in the middle of the night, she gets up, and she's looking for this person. This man who will be her fiancé and then her husband. This man who will love her and she will love. Who will bring her up to be like him. The Shulamite woman. Before she knew Solomon and the love that he would have for her, she was seeking for that. Seeking for the life that God meant for her to have. So it says, I sought him, but I did not find him. This is where my daughter Rebecca's at, right? She's looking for a young man, but so far she has not found the young man. Now Molly, at 15, she found her young man. And that was good. That was an end to this seeking. When we do not know Christ and we're seeking, we try, we look, but we don't find. Not until Christ first reveals himself to us. One of the commentators on this text looked at Mary Magdalene in the garden after Jesus was in the tomb, and how she was seeking for her Lord, but she did not find him. The tomb was empty. Why are you seeking here? He's not here. We are the same way. Why are you seeking in that place? That's not a place where you're going to find the meaning to life, the reality of God's purpose. You're not going to find it in sports. You're not going to find it in work. You're not going to find it in, even in the love of a human person. You could only find it where God reveals it. And Mary Magdalene doesn't find Jesus. Jesus finds her. And then she finds him. So it says in verse 2, I shall arise now, and I shall go about in the city, in the streets, and in the plazas. So all over, searching every little nook and cranny, desperately seeking for that person who will fulfill what God means for her to be. A spouse. We are meant to be the spouse, the bride of Christ. The Shulamite woman was meant to be the wife of Solomon, desperately seeking everywhere but not finding. I sought him, but I did not find him. I shall seek him whom my soul loves. You hear people talking about their soul, whatever, right? Soul companion, soul patron, I forget. Well, God knows who your soul loves. Your soul, as created by God, was made to love God, to love Christ. And God created you to love your spouse. And that the two would become one flesh, a completion, a totality which is more than the two were separate. And so this is the fulfillment of all that God has planned when you find this groom, this fiancé, this one who will become your spouse. Okay, so I sought him, but I did not find him. We've got the theme now. We lie awake, desperately seeking. When we look on our own, we look everywhere, but we don't find. We know something is missing because our soul knows that it has a target for this love, but it doesn't have that target right here. We just can't find it on our own. But God works, as he does in verse 3. The watchmen who go about in the city found me. The watchmen, the messengers of God, those who he chose to work through. Angels, often in the Old Testament. Christ himself coming to Mary Magdalene, coming to Paul. Baptism and the word for us in the church. People like me, pastors, who share with you the true secret to the future, the true secret to life. And of course, if we're married, our spouse. The one that God combines through his blessing with us. So the watchmen come. They find the one who is lost. They see them in their peril, out there at night alone. And they're able to help them, to guide them, to direct their eyes to the one whom they seek. So she asked the watchman, have you seen him whom my soul loves? Hardly had I passed along from them until I found him whom my soul loves. Yep, down there, he's at this building. He's at the corner of, Jesus. Where's the body? Jesus reveals, oh, Rabbi! See, he reveals who he is. He revealed who he was to us. For 39 years, I had some of those nights, during part of those 39 years, not when I was literally little, but I had some of those nights where I wondered, what is God's plan for my life? Obviously, I think I would be good with a family and with children, but didn't have one. And then God found for me my spouse, my wife. He directed me to my backyard. And I found Deanna. There are people right now who are out there seeking a meaning to life, an answer to sin, an answer to what's missing in their lives, into fear and worry and pain. Well, when they find the church, they find the answer to death, they find the answer to sin, they find the purpose of being God's child. Okay? They get directed there by the watchman. Then it's good. Then it's wonderful. I took hold of him, and I would not let him go. Mary Magdalene, right? I took hold of him, and I would not let him go. Polycarp said it right before he was executed, something like 90, 100 years old. He said, for 87 years, my Lord never betrayed me, never deserted me. How can I desert him now? We'd not let him go. I'm married to my wife. I'm not letting her go. She doesn't get away. I'm not letting someone else take her away. I would not let him go. Jesus has brought us into the fold. Don't let go of him. Until I brought him into the house of my mother and into the bedchamber of her who conceived me. Okay? There's a way of viewing how you get married. It's that the women catch the men. In fact, my daughter Rebecca's name means entrapper of men. I tease her about that. But there is some reality to this. I remember my sister Rebecca when she met her spouse in college before she was married to him. Once she had found him, she was going to make sure that he was going to be her husband. He is. We get that way, right? And we should be that way with Christ. Now that we have the good gifts, now that we are baptized and we're forgiven and we're part of his community, why aren't we grasping with both hands and holding on tight? Coming to church and hearing his word, praying at meals and bedtime and other times, being involved in a study of his word on a daily basis, just never letting go. Because now we found it. We found our husband. She's not going to let go until he marries her. And then she won't let him go because he's married to her, right? You have the oath until death do us part. And in Christ's case, death do us part isn't a parting, because at death, we're still part of him. Right? So into the bedchamber, into the house of my mother, and into the bedchamber of her who conceived me, into the consummation of the marriage. Interesting that the mother is brought into this. A number of times, her mother and then later Solomon's mother are brought in. Now, the Bible teaches us quite plainly, and a man shall take a wife and shall leave his father and mother and make their own household. But the mother here is blessing the marriage. She's not interfering. She knows that the Shulamite woman will be taken by Solomon to live in the temple, or temple, palace. She knows that he will become the center of her life. And she blesses that. She says, this is good. This is as it should be. And in the process, the Shulamite woman and Solomon show respect and love for the Shulamite woman's parents. They do the fourth commandment. They honor the fact that she was raised by her mother and brought up by her, and now he's going to be taking her into his household. But it was under her tutelage, her mother's tutelage, that she learned about love and about seeking this man whom she loves. It is one of the problems in our society today that we have so many divided marriages and so many torn apart families, that we don't have always the good example of a father and a mother who love each other, fully and completely, who love each other as God intended, who are one flesh, serving one another, always looking out for the good of the other. Well, always is probably not the right word because we sin, but should be striving to always. Here we see that the Shulamite woman has a wonderful mother, and the mother blesses the marriage, and the mother is glad that she held on tightly to this young man, to this man that she loves. Same goes in the church. We are all trained up by someone in the church. The church, the bride of Christ, trains up the young in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, brings them up to understand how to love Jesus, to be a proper bride of the great groom of heaven. So we give honor to the church, because that's the place where we came to know and love Christ, to understand some of his great benefits and blessings. So here she gets married, she has the wonderful consummation of her marriage, and she respects her parents who brought her up to know how to love and be loved. Verse 5 is a final adjuration again. It's a repetition of an adjuration from earlier. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not awaken or arouse the love until it pleases. Okay, so right after this wonderful song, where at night she's desiring this great marriage, where she hunts for this great marriage, where a watchman, someone sent by God, guides her to her spouse, and then she marries him in a way which is pleasing to her mother, which honors her mother, and which her mother blesses. Now she returns back to those who are still seeking, who are still lying at night, wondering, am I ever going to have a husband? Once again, she says, don't do the things you're not supposed to be doing before it's time. God will find you. He will direct you to Jesus. He will make you a part of the church. And in the human perspective, God is in control of when and if you get a husband. God is in control of when and if you get a wife. As I say, it took me 39 years. But he will direct you at the proper time. And it is a blessing to your spouse and a blessing to you if you do this according to the design that God created from the beginning. The design where you reserve certain activities, certain affections, until the proper time. So do not awaken or arouse the love until it pleases God that you awaken or arouse the love. And the same goes, as we said last time, with the sharing of faith. We continue to share the faith. We continue to encourage people to seek, and eventually we're placed in the role of watchmen, directing them toward. But the marriage won't happen until it's time for the marriage to happen. They won't come to faith until it is time, until God uses the Holy Spirit to bring them to faith, until he breaks down their rejection and their walls against having someone else as the God of their life. And when it happens, then it is good. It is ultimately to be desired. All right, we'll close there for now.